All right, well, welcome back. We have just sat down, been goofing off for a while, and now we're going to get into Luke chapter 9. Before we do that, we're going to go ahead and open up with prayer, and then we'll introduce everybody and we'll get started. So pray with me. Dear God, we love you. Father, you're awesome. We're not. Help protect us from saying anything that would be just outlandish or wrong, but also help us to have a good time learning about you, talking about you with each other. It's in your Son, Jesus Christ's name, I pray. Amen. All right, well, we'll just go around the room. We'll start directly across from me tonight. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us who we got here.
Who we got here is Kurt. I'm back again.
Kurt's back. I think me and you, this is 3 in a row.
3 in a row.
We'll see if that holds true.
Okay, I'm Buster Mason again. Second time.
Yeah, he's back for a second week in a row. Short notice, but we're glad he's here. Oh, you need to tell everybody what you're wearing today.
Yeah, that's part of the intro now.
Oh, I got on some camouflage with a peach color shirt.
Yeah, the peach color shirt's not the problem. He's got camouflage pants on from Vietnam. And he's got a digital camo jacket on, and they're nowhere close to the same. But luckily, you're good for all environments.
That's right.
And we got a new person over here. Last one, go ahead.
Jeremy Brown.
We got Jeremy Brown. He also is the one that preached the sermon on Luke chapter 9 this past Sunday. So we thought it'd be a good idea to have him here. Before we get started with that, I guess, Jeremy, we'll let you kick it off. Is there anything that you didn't get to say, wish you could have said, or maybe something from the sermon that you just want to make sure is emphasized?
Well, when you get up there and do the music and the sermon, it already feels like a really, really long time to be up there, and that it's like too much of you.
It feels that way for you too?
Oh, yeah.
It felt that way for us too.
Try feels that way without singing. He's just up there for that long.
Yeah.
It's not fair. But anyway, continue. I'm sorry to interrupt.
So, yeah. But yeah, there are a few things that, if you had like some people get to do like series of sermons. Other people just, you get one and that's it. But the compassion that Jesus felt was so personal. So really diving into that would have been nice. And then I talked a little bit about this the other night with Savannah, my wife. That
I'm glad you clarified that.
Well, you never know who's actually listening. But in the sermon we talked about the three aspects of Christ-like compassion. That Jesus saw the people, that Jesus felt, and then Jesus acted. And we kind of talked about how in today's world, where we find out all the bad things that are going on, not just in our area, but on the other side of the world, that we see those things and we may feel about those things, but there isn't a lot that we can do for the majority of those things. There's no action that we can take to show compassion to people in Cambodia.
Other than just like sending them money or something like that.
Yeah. So my concern is that there probably are people who fill their lives with the first two steps of compassion, and it takes up so much of their emotional energy that they don't always have time or energy to act on maybe the people right across the street from them that need compassion.
Yeah, and I actually had a conversation. It didn't start with that train of thought, but it still kind of got there on the same thing of, one of the reasons I don't like to use Facebook a whole lot is just it's a time consuming thing, but also I don't know how many thousand friends plus are on there for me, and I genuinely do not have the bandwidth to genuinely go and like through all the emotions with this one person I met at a conference, on the other side of the United States, and every part of their life that they go through. I just don't have the emotional bandwidth. I can barely do it with my own family, much less like extending it to the whole world like social media allows us to do. But I may be just wrong on that point, and it may just be just me being a psycho, as we like to say around here.
My wife told me I was kind of wrong in my point of view on it. She thinks you should be able to feel all the feelings and still do all the things.
But if you're feeling all the feelings for everybody, and it's people that you can never like actually reach out and touch and be like, hey, I want to put my hand on your shoulder and pray for you. How do you get that through Facebook?
Yeah.
Because, and I'm speaking to somebody, if somebody tells me they're praying for me on Facebook, I'm just kind of like, maybe you are, maybe you're not. It doesn't really affect me as much. But I just think social media, for me anyway, it's really hard to really get to all three phases, like you said about compassion. Like I can see it, I can feel for them, but it doesn't lead me to like an action, a physical action that I can do a lot of times. Anything else you want to say about sermon? Luke 9? Okay, good. So I got a question. As we get into here, I sent you guys like a heads up on what kind of question I was going to ask. So maybe you could think about some stories. So no order, jump in, and we're going to probably make fun of you as you get going. But my question, just for everybody listening, was, think of a time when you had planned to like do nothing or to take a rest, and you were interrupted by somebody who needed your help. And just tell us like that story. What happened? How did you respond? Go. Not everybody wants.
Every day?
Every day?
Every day?
My goodness.
When you're a teacher or you have kids?
I'm just astonished you get to plan to rest every day.
Well, I mean, like, I wake up earlier than everyone at my house so that I can have some time without all the insanity. And I woke up I set my alarm for 6, which I know for some of you guys that's late, but
yeah, I didn't know you had to set alarms for 6.
Yeah, but I woke up at 5:30, and I just went ahead and got up and thought, I'll have an extra 30 minutes. And of course, the morning that I get up early, I hear the door open, and the boys start getting up early as well. So, kind of ruined that.
Well, we're kind of right there because I always wake up early, but right now we have, Hallie. She's 8 months old now, and she has started waking up early with me. And I'm like, girl, I love you, but this is my time to read the Bible, and you same it. What, you two fellows over there sitting there looking at us? You got anything?
I was actually thinking about this afternoon. I got home from work. I was like, all right, I got about 45 minutes before I need to go to church. So I said, I'm going to sit in this recliner and just lean back and see what happens. And I closed my eyes, and James started screaming.
Well, I was surprised you got screaming because I was picturing you sat in the recliner, laid back, and here comes like a Macho Man Randy Savage elbow off the top rope right in your chest.
Well, they know I have the seventh sense of I can feel danger close, and I haven't lost a fight yet. They're not big enough for that, but I can sense it. Like whatever that spidey sense is, I have that for little elbows.
Was he even screaming about anything remotely important?
He saw me close my eyes.
So that was the purpose of the screaming. Like, wait a second, Dad is trying to take a rest.
Yeah.
Let me scream to get over this.
No rest in this house. James doesn't allow that.
Works for me. Well, I was thinking about when we was talking about that, Saturday night, Sunday's usually a long day, especially last Sunday because I had to help make coffee, and then we had a deacons meeting, and then we had church to start after all that. So I said, I won't go to bed early. And then I know y'all think this is crazy, but there's an Avengers movie on that I don't think you ever saw. So I was going.
You haven't seen all 25 of them?
No.
Which one was it?
Was it the one where all the heroes get together and fight somebody bad?
That's all of them.
Yeah. And they won. So
that's not one of them.
It's definitely not number 3 because number 3 they don't win.
Spoiler.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Sorry, spoilers.
But anyway, I just saw it as, hey, Avengers. I hear all this stuff about Avengers, so I watched them. So as I was watching the movie, I was thinking, well, when it goes off, I'm gonna go to bed. And I kept watching it, and I kept watching the clock, and it was getting close to 12 o'clock.
Well, like midnight?
Yes. So
you are way too old to be staying up till midnight.
Oh, I know. It's
luckily they're all short movies.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But anyway, so I was figuring my time. I said, well, I can set my alarm for 7, go to bed at 12, and I can get 7 hours sleep if I can sleep 7 o'clock. So after we got done, or after the movie was over with, and the Avengers saved the world, and we could go to bed, or I could go to bed, everybody else was in bed, I started heading that way, and then my fire pager went off. And I'm thinking,
well, hold on now. For people who don't know, what is this fire pager?
Okay, I'm on volunteer fire department. So it's one of these great jobs that our community, most of the time, they're thought process to us is no good deed goes unpunished. So they'll get with us for the trucks running the lights and siren at night and stuff like that, or too late, or nobody called me and let me know that there was a deer got run over in the middle of the road and somebody bent their car and called 911. But anyway.
So basically, most of the time you get called, it's not for a fire, it's for like medical emergency.
It's usually
or medical situation.
This was a lift assistance.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, well, I'll go to bed and I'll let them handle it. And I'm thinking, well, I said I would do this volunteer thing. So I went ahead and done it. Plus, it was in this area right here, real close to the church. So I'm still calculating. So I'm going to cut my 7 hours down. I got to bed at 1 o'clock Sunday morning. So, yeah. And I'm old, remember.
And then on Monday night, you had beauty pageants to go attend for the granddaughters.
Yeah. They wanted me to enter, but I just couldn't take it away from them.
Well, so my old truck I used to change the oil on all the time. And it was like, I will say, it was a 2013 Dodge Ram. It's a magnificent thing to change the oil in. It's super easy to get to. Everything except for the oil filter is a piece of cake. And I was thinking, I'm going to be manly. I'm going to start doing this on Brittany's car. She has an Explorer, and it is not. Everything that was easy about mine, not easy about hers. Well, the first time I'm doing hers, the little cap that you take off to put the new oil in the car, I set it on the headlight, and then me or one of the boys, our elbow hit it, and it somehow fell in a cubby hole that was about the size of a quarter between the headlight and the body of the car. And I'm just looking at it, and it's like a good 18 inches down there. I'm like, there's no possible way. And so I'm over there with a coat hanger, oil still over my hands, coat hanger, trying to like fish this thing out. And here comes my lovely wife, and she's like, hey, if you're not busy, can you come do this for me? And I was in that moment, I was just like, you know what? I'm extremely busy, and I'm frustrated on top of all this. And usually I would be irate that she does not recognize that how busy I am. But in this particular moment with what I'm going through, I would love to leave this car here and just walk away. And so that was one of the stories that came to my mind about it.
Which one of your sons is tall enough to get their elbows up on top of that headlight and knock it off?
Okay, so her car, it's so messed up. You have to have like a small step ladder to get to all the things. And so they were climbing up and down the ladder, and they were doing it. Like, if you have a 2015 Explorer, don't even change the oil. Just take it somewhere.
Why would you change oil that's already in the car?
Oh my goodness. Kurt, have you ever changed the oil in your vehicles?
I mean, not personally, no.
You've heard of it before.
I've heard of people doing that, but it didn't seem like a good idea to me.
I could definitely see you being one of the guys. You take their car to the mechanic takes it out, and he's like, this is what it looks like when you pour windshield washer fluid in your oil. And it's just like that gel.
No, I mean, the oil will run out of it eventually. You just add more on the top of it. You don't have to change it at the bottom.
I don't think that's how it works.
Oh, yeah. So that's science.
It's like seasoning a cast iron skillet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
Don't put it in the dishwasher.
This is a disclaimer. If you are listening to this, do not take advice of us as mechanics. None of us are trained professionals, but all of us are morons. So
I don't disagree.
We'll go with that. One of the things I want to talk about, so I'm going to go first, and then you guys can take this wherever you want to, and we can go somewhere else later. But in Luke 9, the first 6 verses, we have where Jesus is sending out the 12 disciples. And this is like, it's taught on a lot, but it's like one of the only places we ever see this happen. He tells them, go and don't take anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally do not think that this is like a mandate for whenever you go somewhere to take nothing with you, don't plan. Because later on he's going to tell them to take things. But I also don't think that there is supposed to be like this is the 5-step process that you do every time you take a mission trip. But I was curious with you guys, like, why do you think Jesus told them in this scenario, like, hey, go, don't take anything?
Well, one of the things I saw when I was researching and doing some reading, a guy named Barclay put out this thought that I'd never thought of before, but to directly quote him so I don't mess it up, he said, he was once again speaking words which are very familiar to a Jew. The Talmud tells us that no one is going to the Temple Mount with staff, shoes, girdle of money, or dusty feet. The idea was that when a man entered the temple, he must make it quite clear that he had left everything which had to do with trade and business and worldly affairs behind. So, to me, if we go down that train of thought, that he's telling them, make it very plain that you are not of this world. You're not concerned with the things of this world. You have a one-track mind. You're there to proclaim the word of God. But I also like that he added, you're not going there just to tell people about the good news. What does he say at the end? He tells them, go proclaim the good news, and what else?
Well, he tells them to
Heal people.
heal people, and
right?
So
he's saying, don't just go tell somebody about Jesus and keep it moving. Meet people where they're at, meet their needs, and tell them about Jesus too. So I think a lot of times we get caught up in the idea of, well, how many people can I preach the word to? How many people can I reach with the gospel? Rather than meeting needs first, meeting people where they're at.
Yeah, definitely. And I can't get too far into this because I'm actually doing the Luke 10 one later this week. And we kind of get a similar situation where they're coming back excited. But I mean, he does give them the authority over all demons.
Mhm.
Like when I read that, I was like, all demons subject to these guys. Could you imagine like walking into the world and not having to worry? Like, I know, and there's kind of people take demon, spiritual warfare, all that stuff to one of two extremes. It's either like, oh, none of that stuff is real, it doesn't exist. I'm just going to act like the world is good. There's no such thing as demons, no spiritual warfare. I love life. And then you have like the other extreme of it where people like they just see demons everywhere. Like if this microphone started doing feedback, well, it's because the demon's in the microphone. Even though there's nowhere in scripture that I've seen where demons or spiritual forces can get into an inanimate object, it's always something with life in it. If you can find it, show it to me. Hadn't seen it yet, or at least I don't recall it right now. But it's like the two extremes of demons don't exist or demons are everywhere. And I think both of those have big problems. One, if you don't think they exist, the Bible's teaching it. Like, why would Jesus give the disciples authority over demons if they didn't exist?
Right.
That would be like giving you authority over Never Never Land. Well, that's wonderful. It doesn't exist. We can give that to anybody want to. But on the other side, if you see demons everywhere, you're almost giving them too much credit and too much power, and you're focused on them and almost saying, well, God is good, they are bad, and they are like equals fighting against each other. And they're not. Demons are not equal to God. Because Jesus just gave them power over all of them. So we know that God is greater. And we don't have to run around being scared of like demons. I think respect what they can do as far as like the power they do have, but don't just be terrified of them.
I went back and I was reading chapter 9 again today. And as I got to looking, it said, don't take a staff or a bag or bread or money. And I thought, why not a staff? Well, it's just a stick. So I did a little reading up on a staff, and they use a staff a good bit in traveling and stuff. Stir you up as you go. But also, in some of the stuff I was reading, they also used a staff where they kept up with things that was going on. They would carve events and things to like keeping a journal on their staff. And I thought, well, maybe that's why not. But then, we really don't know nothing other than they went and they came back. So it's one of those things that I think, Jesus said, I don't want y'all to really record everything you've done right now.
That's an interesting thought. Do you think it's because like don't get caught up on all the things you did in the past? Like, because I'm speaking from a Baptist church in the South, we have a big focus on like the past history of who did what, when they did, what used to be. And I think sometimes that is a hindrance. Like sometimes we can get so caught up on trying to, quote, get back to the glory days that we're not focused on, well, I actually think God has something better in the future for us.
Well, I'm talking about the staffs. One of the things that I read is, this is given in multiple accounts in the New Testament. And in one account, it says, take the staff. And then another one, it says, don't. And so a lot of people get really hung up on that. But after reading that, when he was saying, don't take the staff, he's referring to more like a billy club for defense. And the other use of the word staff is more like a walking stick. So he's saying, walking stick, fine. Billy club for defense, not fine.
Huh.
But that's not perfectly confirmed, but that's what most experts believe. And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and even then again, you can't take that to say like, well, he
Right.
never wants us to defend ourselves because
Right.
the Lord's Supper
Mhm.
or the Last Supper, what does he tell him to do?
Get your swords and
go out
go.
and buy 2 swords.
Yeah.
Like, That's enough. Let's get those 2 swords and let's ride.
Mhm.
And so that's what, like, a lot of times I think we try to look for the method of, like, and it's almost like borderline witchcraft. What people look for is like, oh, well, if you do everything just like this as you go on the mission trip, then everything's going to be great.
Right.
I'm like, actually, I think that's why you don't get the same instructions every time. Jesus doesn't heal people the same every time. You have blind people healed numerous ways.
Yeah.
Because it's not about the method, it's about the person.
Well, and it's not a recipe. Like,
yeah,
there's different ways to do it that'll get it done.
There you go. Do you have something else over there before we cut you off?
No, go ahead.
So here's a question. He called the 12 together. He gave them this power and this authority. One of those 12 was Judas, who we all look at as big phony. Yet Jesus gave him this authority. What do y'all think of that?
I figured Judas, which never really believed Jesus was the Messiah, I figured he probably just tagged along with whoever he was teamed up with and let them do everything. Just kind of sit back, enjoy the ride.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm actually open to the idea that he was one of the ones driving out demons. I mean, I have to look it up real quick, but what is it? Matthew chapter 7. Let me get there real fast. Matthew chapter 7, he says, not everyone that says to me, Lord, Lord, I'm in verse 21, will get into the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father. In verse 22, it says, on that day, many will say to me, Lord, didn't we prophesy in your name and cast out demons in your name? And he will say, depart from me, I never knew you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, Judas could have very well been going around casting demons out of people by the power that Jesus gave them, but still never really submitted to Jesus.
Or is it possible that Judas was bought in the whole time and just fell away at the end?
Yeah, and that's true too, because we definitely know after it's all over, Judas has severe remorse.
Right.
And I think the common assumption is, well, there's no way that Judas was saved. That's like the common assumption. But I'm not sure. Because I don't know what he did after he betrayed Jesus. What, like, where did he go? Did he? So I don't know. I'm gonna leave it. That's a him and God kind of question that they're about to go through. But it's a good idea, like a good question though, because Judas was one of the 12, and he was one that we wouldn't consider real.
But to me, if you're going to take it to modern day, it would just kind of make us question. We put so much credence in men that we see that God is using, and we put so much weight on them. That, oh, that's a good man. But really, there's nothing that they are doing outside of the power of God.
Yeah, I think you're in trouble anytime you start thinking, "Oh, that's a good man," because
Yeah.
you're automatically wrong.
Yeah.
Us four right here in this little circle, none of us are good. Like and none of you guys know just how bad I am, better than I do, because I'm actually witness to all of my sins all day, and I'm witness to everything from pride, arrogance, anger, you name it. Like, I see it all. But I do think we put a lot of pressure on people, especially
Put
like
people on pedestals.
and especially the people that we see in front a lot. And so that's one of the things that we have to be really careful of. Like, there's no human that we should be watching that we're like, oh, he does so much good. He is a good person. The only reason any of us do anything that's really good is because of the power of the Holy Spirit working through us, because we're submitted to the authority of Jesus Christ. Without that, we're just wasting time trying to make ourselves look good. Good point. Anybody else got anything on this sending out story?
Well, I was just thinking about Judas. You know, he betrayed Jesus, and I was thinking, well, he may have been behind on his payment on his donkey or something. Need to pay it off. Something reason he done it.
Oh, and so I mean, I guess so. But I hope he had a better reason than that. Like, if you're going to betray the guy you've been hanging out with for 3 years, hopefully it wasn't for a donkey.
And you know, you think about it. To me, I'm thinking it was just all about the money, and then he threw it away when he realized what he'd done.
It's interesting though, because, and I don't know where the reference is. I'll have to go find it. Maybe this is bad of me to say it without knowing exactly where it's at. But like, there were priests who said, this guy Jesus is going to die, and it's necessary and good for him to die for the salvation of the nation. And they were thinking of it in the terms of like, we can kill him, appease Rome, keep our country. But his prophecy was actually real. It was just a double entendre that he didn't understand, that, yeah, Jesus is going to die for literally the salvation of the world. And it's kind of hard to figure out, like, where did Judas fall in that? Was he trying to push prophecy alone? Was he trying to just get rich quick? Like, what was the deal? And we know he stole money. John tells us that.
Yeah. And he could have been such a true believer in the wrong thing the same way that Saul was, right? Saul was so much of a true believer that he killed Christians.
Mm-hmm.
And God changed him after that. But he believed strongly enough in what he believed, even though it wasn't correct at the time, that he was willing to kill for it.
Yeah.
So it could be that Judas was a true believer in something besides Jesus at the time.
Yeah. He may have seen, like, okay, hey, this Jesus guy is a threat to the state of Israel.
Yeah.
And I care enough about the state of Israel that I'm willing to sacrifice my friendship with this guy to save everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Very well could have been. Okay. Anybody else on this? Ready to move? Okay. My next thing I want to talk about is at the very end of the chapter. So if you guys got something in between, this is a good time. Kurt, go ahead.
All right. So in verse 20, it says, "Then he said to them, 'But who do you say that I am?' And Peter answered, 'The Christ of God.'" So when I was reading a commentary about this, it brought up a really good point, that the way we live our life every day is the answer to this question that Peter's asked in verse 20. Who do you say Jesus is? And we can say whatever we want to, but the life that we live is truly the answer to that question. And we have to answer that question every day with how we live. And I think a lot of us would love to just say, oh yeah, Jesus is exactly who I say he is, but then we live another way. And your fruit displays what you really believe. And so you can say what you want to, but if you don't have the fruit that backs that up, you really don't believe that Jesus is who you think he is. And so I thought that was a cool way to look at that. I'd never really thought of that quote before, or answering that question like that, but we answer it every day with the things that we do or don't do.
Yeah, and this is a great time for us just to end this first episode. And you'll have to hear the rest of the thoughts on this whole idea of living as if you truly believe on the next one that comes out. So thank you for being with us, and hopefully we'll see you guys tomorrow.